Peace is present right here and now, in ourselves and in everything we do and see. Every breath we take, every step we take, can be filled with peace, joy, and serenity. The question is whether or not we are in touch with it. We need only to be awake, alive in the present moment. This week's opening quote comes from Thich Nhat Hanh. Welcome to Surviving the Matrix. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Maxwell Igan. It's a pleasure to be with you once again, and I will be your host for the next hour. And here we are at the start of 2015, folks. And what an interesting year it's been. 2014, I mean, you could almost look back on this year and call it the year of false flags, really. I mean, there's been so many staged events happen in the last 12 months. It's been almost beyond belief. From the fake beheadings recorded by some British actor in some British studio and attributed to ISIS, the creation of ISIS itself, and the claim that this latest Mossad CIA boogeyman is a group of Muslim extremists. We saw a false flag in Canada, in the Canadian Parliament. We saw a false flag in Sydney, Australia, with the gunman in the coffee shop, which caused the shutdown of Sydney airspace. We saw the false flag that was the Ebola outbreak, the pandemic that never happened. We've seen the rhetoric surrounding the downing of flight MH17 over Ukraine and the blame being put on Russia, even though it obviously had nothing to do with Russia. We've seen so many false flags this year, folks. It's been incredible. And we've seen things very much revealing themselves. We've seen the truth about Guantanamo Bay revealed. It's also been revealed that just as the Pentagon is asking for another $2.1 billion to pay Iraqi soldiers, it's been discovered that there are over 50,000 Iraqi soldiers on the payroll who actually don't exist. So one may question where those wages are going as well. There's been a lot of things exposed in the last 12 months, folks. Israel and those governments who support it have certainly exposed themselves in the last 12 months through the recent incursion into Gaza. There's been a huge backlash against Israel because of this incursion. People are now seeing just what a pariah state Israel is, and they are beginning to see that its main activity in Palestine is actually ethnic cleansing. The people in Gaza, of course, are still suffering the Israeli incursion, and they are beginning 2015 with around about 4 hours electricity a day. And we've just, of course, seen any recognition of a Palestinian state rejected by the United Nations. Well, not really rejected. Of course, the majority did vote to recognize a Palestinian state, but of course the power of the few who control the decisions thought otherwise. And that is just some of the things we've seen in 2014. And 2015 looks to be a very interesting year. I know I certainly have a pretty big year ahead of me. If everything goes to plan, I do intend to launch the Full Circle project this year. And I've got a lot of things to organise for that. I'll also be speaking at the 20th anniversary of the Rainbow Serpent Festival in Victoria at the end of January as well, folks, if you're in the area. Or if you're ever thinking of coming to Australia, well, the Rainbow Serpent Festival is on around about the 23rd, I think, of January, and goes to the 26th. So if you are in the country, it would be great to see you there. And from there, I really do have a lot of work to get done this year. There are so many things on my plate that, well, things really could go in any direction. I'm kind of like that, folks. I don't plan things too much. I have kind of vague plans, even though it may be vague plans surrounding major events. They are still vague plans. I like to keep everything organic, so I never rule out the possibility of things changing, because the synchronicities in my life simply lead me to areas that I wasn't really intending on going. And this happens all the time. So I find that if I make rigid plans, then I usually miss out on things going where they could have gone because I wasn't open to the synchronicities. So it'll be interesting to see where we go this year, folks. We are in for a hell of a ride this year, I think. You're going to have to buckle your seatbelts, folks. I think the governments are really going to attempt to ramp things up this year because they know they are losing control of the situation. I mean, so much of the world is waking up now. I mean, and when I say that, folks, admittedly, there are a lot of people still asleep. I mean, the majority of the world is still asleep. But there are, fortunately, a lot of people waking up at the same time. And the beauty of it is that we don't need the entire world to wake up. We just need to have some type of critical mass that are actually awake, not just half awake, but are actually awake and are working towards some positive change. We need to create a tribe this year, folks, whatever you want to call it, the Rainbow Warriors, whatever you want to call it, but we need to form the tribe this year, the new tribe, the people who are awake and who wish to make some positive change. We need to begin to step out of this system. And in doing so, we can't turn our back on the system because the system is destroying the world, which is what has created the need for us to step out of it in the first place. But we can step out and away from the system while still maintaining focus on the system in order to prevent the system continuing to destroy the planet the way it is. It's a fine line to walk, but that's the line we have to walk. And I think this is the year we have to begin to do it, folks. I think we're going to see a lot of stuff coming from the governments this year. We're going to see them throwing a lot of things at the people, and we have to be energized enough to know how to combat all of their attacks, because that's what they are, folks. They're attacks. Everything the government does is an attack against life and liberty and justice. The austerity measures the governments are bringing in, this is an attack against society. That's what austerity is. It doesn't serve any purpose other than to put people in a state of hardship and justifying ripping them off a little bit more. When it's all fiction anyway, we don't need to rip anybody off. There doesn't need to be anybody in a state of shortage or hardship on this planet. It's all to do with the fictional, privately run money system. And so we really need to see what's going on here and look at it realistically. All of these things are attacks against humanity, attacks against human consciousness, attacks against human freedom, attacks against us reaching our full potential. And the more these attacks are directed at us, the more people are waking up to the fact that this just isn't right. And that's a good thing. And that's what I mean, folks, when I say the world is waking up. Really, they're waking up, and unfortunately they're waking up for the wrong reasons. They're waking up because they're being forced to wake up, because now the beast has actually reached their backyard. The problem is that when they do wake up, they don't really know what to do about it. And that's what I've attempted to do with these radio shows, is just provide people with some sort of safety net so they do know what to do. But folks, ultimately, all people really need to do to make a difference in the world is to speak their truth. There are so many things that we can speak about now. There are so many issues in our face. This fake war on terror, the coal seam gas industry, what it's doing to our water table, the creation of this fake terrorist group, ISIS or ISIL or whatever they're calling themselves this week, which is obviously a Mossad CIA operation, the real perpetrators of the 9/11 attacks, the situation in Gaza, what's actually going on there, the crimes of Israel. There are so many things that we can just speak the truth about now. And that's all it takes, folks, is people to have the courage to stand up and say what is right. Stop being politically correct. Stop being fearful of criminal politicians. Understand that these people are simply criminals. And you don't have to be scared or cower in the face of criminals. You know, if you're standing up and speaking the truth, then you are the one who is right. You are the one with the moral high ground, regardless of what these scumbag politicians say or do. And if you do speak the truth, you make your voice heard, it reaches other people, folks, and that's what we need. We need people to make a difference on the ground in their own communities. Do what you can for the people around you. Support your neighbours in any way you can. Be a shining light. Be helpful to people. But don't be politically correct or back down in the face of political adversity. Don't allow the government to control what you can and cannot say. And do not be afraid to point the finger and name a criminal for a criminal and call a spade a spade. Don't back down to these politicians, folks. Don't back down to people like Tony Abbott. Tony Abbott's a criminal. You can tell he's a criminal just by his actions. You can tell he's a criminal because he doesn't question the 9/11 attacks and he supports Israel. Therefore, he's a criminal who supports war crimes and ethnic cleansing. It's as simple as that. Plus the fact that he continues to allow cannabis to be prohibited when it is actually one of the most healing plants on the planet, and its prohibition is a crime against humanity. This shows that he's a criminal. He's a criminal. He does not care about people. He does not care about truth. And it's the same for every politician in the Western world. Anybody who has not spoken out about 9/11, anybody who has not spoken out about the prohibition of cannabis, anybody who has not spoken out about the private issuance of currency is either a fool and is too stupid to hold a political office, or is a criminal and is part of the problem. It's as simple as that, folks. There's absolutely no grey area. And that's the cut and dry of the situation, folks. They're either fools or criminals, either that or they're just plain cowards who are too afraid to actually speak the truth because they don't want to lose whatever cushy little position they've set up for themselves. Either way, they're doing it at the expense of life and at the expense of humankind, and they are not fit to hold the position that they hold. And we know these truths now. These truths are self-evident. And so we can stand up and speak the truth, and we can help more and more people become aware of the truth when we do so. We just have to do it in the right way. You don't do it with anger or animosity. Don't come across as being unstable. Simply stand up and call a spade a spade. That's what we can all do this year in 2015, folks, and that is what will make a real difference. If people put down their fear and realize that now is the time for people to stand up and speak their truth. The problem up to this point, of course, has been that people are constrained by such things as political correctness. People are too afraid to rock the boat. They're too afraid of what their neighbours and their friends and peers might think about them. But it's time to put all that aside, folks. It's time to see political correctness for what it is. It's actually a form of intellectual tyranny that prevents people from speaking their minds, it prevents people from speaking the truth because they're too afraid they may upset somebody in the process. Political correctness has led to the fluffiness of society, the squashing of the warrior spirit, the inability of people to stand up in the face of adversity and to stand up and say what is right and to call a spade a spade. This is all due to the concept of political correctness that has been instilled into people via the insidious education system and social systems that we are subject to. But as I said, this political correctness has served to essentially gag society and prevent people from standing up and speaking their mind, and has allowed the world to degrade to the position it's in and allowed the politicians to get away with the many things that they do. So it's time we put all of that aside, folks. We really don't need this sort of thing. And we can't allow the world to be destroyed, or we can't allow society to crumble and for mankind to simply be impoverished and discarded due to our need to be politically correct in what we say. We don't need to be politically correct at all, folks. What we need to do is be brutally honest and blatantly truthful. That's what we need to do. You know, it's time to stand up and make a difference, folks. We've allowed the world to deteriorate to this point, and now we have everything we've ever needed to be able to demonstrate how corrupt this system is to people, and we have everything we've ever needed to be able to actually stand up against it. All we have to do is be prepared to step into our hearts and stand up and speak our truth. That's what we should make 2015, folks. We should make it the year of truth. We should make it the year of the return of the warrior spirit, the year of the creation of the new tribe of mankind. Because this is the year we can turn things around. This is the year we can take things in a completely different direction. All we have to do is want to, and above all, we need to participate in making it happen. Now, some of the things I would like to get into in the show today are ways that you can participate in making it happen. As I've said, the most important thing is standing up and speaking your truth. But you've also got to be able to do it in a way that's going to reach people. What you need to do is find a method that is calm, eloquent,